Good afternoon, everybody. Silver Dragon here, coming out to you with some Unreal World, which has just recently released on Steam for the low price of a little over $10, at least in my currency. So it's quite a cheap game, and it is actually a really fantastic game. Now, Unreal World is a roguelite survival game set in the far north in the late, I believe it was late Iron period, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, the late Iron Age. So it's a 2D survival game in which you have to hunt, fish, build shelter, and so on and so forth. Build yourself a nice log cabin, and generally just try and survive in a kind of settler-based time period, one could say. So it's a bit of a harsh time. There's a lot of things out there that want to kill us: bears, wolves. What's it called? What the hell's their name? I can never pronounce their damn name. Let me scroll down here. Najurpus? Something like that. Either way, I just call them the red guys because they wear red and they are evil and they want to kill us. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of a quick guide on just some suggestions about what to do for Unreal World for those that might just be getting started up in the game. Not quite a continuation of my LP series, but anyway, let's just kind of take a look at it. Now, I'll be covering things in a bit of a general way. I won't be covering everything, but I will be looking at a new character and then a more advanced character from my LP series, actually, which I should really get back to sometime soon. So that will advance a little bit further from that. Now, anyway, obviously when you first start off, you can go into the setup. We have, actually not too many options here. You have to go into the INI folder, I guess, to alter that if you so wish. In which case, I put mine to 1600 by 900 for this lovely window. Anywho, let's go ahead and create a new character. Now, there's a couple things we can do. We can customize it, easy, too easy, quick and easy, which would just create one for you pretty quickly. But I like to go for the pure custom class. Now, let's do, let's just do tutorial, name my name, is my name, cough. Now, when you first start off here, you have a decision between the various cultures. I can actually go question mark for a lovely page here that will talk about the various cultures. The Northern people, the Eastern people, Western people. But I will also be linking to the wiki, which has a cultures page, which I would definitely check out if I were you before creating your character, as it also shows the inherent average stats for each tribe. Now, one thing I would say is that when you're designing your character, you want to specialize. You don't want to try and be a jack of all trades necessarily, because then you're not going to be surviving very well. If you want to hunt, then you want to specialize for hunting. If you want to fish, then you want to specialize for fishing. Not to say that you can't hunt on the side or do a bunch of other stuff on the side, but if you're going to go for that specific aspect, then you're going to want to make sure that you're good at it. Because if you have like half-baked fishing, then you're not going to get a hell of a lot out of it. So the main tribes I like the most are the Camelanian, I cannot pronounce that word shit, which have the highest strength out of all the other cultures. So they're really good at carrying, like, you know, a deer and a half worth of weight on them and hides and all that stuff. They get to carry a lot of stuff on them. This also depends on their body type and overall, which we'll be getting to in a moment. Other than that, the Owl tribe is a great all-round tribe. They have the highest will, eyesight, hearing, and their stats overall are pretty good, though their strength is quite low. So that's kind of debatable for that. The Camelanians are about 16.9 strength, whereas the Owl are 8.9, generally speaking. Excuse me. Other than that, if you want to get into fishing, I would definitely suggest the Seal tribe, which have great agility, speed, intellect, and are much more in touch with that aspect. Now, I personally love hunting, so I'm going to go with a Camelane, which is what my current character, which I'll be getting to later, actually is. You can choose the sex, male, female. Let's go male. You get to pick your portrait out of all these lovely ones here. Let's go with this guy. He looks fantastic. That's one fantastic beard. Choose the starting season. Now, I would always start in spring. If you start any later than that, then you're not necessarily going to have enough time to really get things done. Now, when you start off in the spring, there's certain things you can do as well. During the early spring and I believe late autumn, if I'm not mistaken, you can dry meat outside. So you don't have to worry about, you don't need a house, like a closed in area to smoke meat. You can actually just dry it outside. And you have perfectly preserved meat that will last you a long time. Usually, when I'm playing, if I'm doing well, by the time the initial spring drying period is over, I have enough meat already to last me throughout the winter. Start with spring, of course. Now, this is our initial generated stats. Now, for the Camelane, we want to make sure that we have the highest bit of physique. This gives us the best strength and the most carry capacity. Now, overall, this is pretty good. I mean, the strength is way the hell up there. These are really good stats. Now, depending on what you want to choose, you might want to go with the base stats you first start off with, or you might say, no, I'm going to try and get something better. So you can re-roll, and that's actually pretty damn good. The strength did get decreased, but we did get more speed and agility. And speed and agility is quite important, especially for a hunter, because you want to be able to keep up with your prey. Basically, there's a couple of different ways you can hunt prey. You can lay down traps. You can create a trap fence, which is essentially a bunch of fences with holes in between in order to, in like a very small, like a choke point, basically, in order to capture prey. You can use a dog to chase after them, which is the most efficient way to do it, but it can also lead to damaged hides, which are less valuable. Or the other thing you can do is, what the hell is it called? Let's see here. It's carousal or carousal? Cursorial hunting, I believe that's called. It's basically where you are toggling between running and walking to try and maximize your stamina and your speed while chasing after a deer or whatever it happened to be, an elk, so that it eventually tires out and you can finish it off really easily by going for its head, thus damaging the hide very little. Now, this is actually really good for the most part. The strength is high, endurance is really high. Speed and agility aren't as high as I would like them, but I have the max physique. Not the total weight that I could have, or the highest weight I could have with this tribe, but we're going to go with that. That's pretty good. Let's continue. Those are good stats. So right here we have our rituals. So we can chant these rituals in order to have a certain effect. The hunting ritual gives us a much better chance for successful hunting. Maybe it'll allow us to spot animals easier and so on and so forth. The Oath of Iron allows us to enchant iron weapons to be more powerful. This used to be really, really, really overpowered actually for hunting, because spears were considered, like just javelins were considered iron weapons, so you could make them even more powerful and they were just ridiculous. But I believe that got patched out a long time ago. So these incantations you can use, though I believe in the early mornings. It'll tell you exactly in the information about when they can be used and what they will do. At least in a general fashion. If I go F1, I can launch the info browser. Yeah, ritual. We can go for the rituals, guiding spirits, healing. So some of them are really good for healing or making a fire. Helps you succeed in tasks like hunting and all that good stuff. So they're really useful. You can learn basically as you're just surviving in the wilderness. You will eventually say a text will pop up saying you have become one with the wilderness or something, and you'll have another. If you open up the rituals page, you'll have one in red. In order to then acquire that ritual, you need to go to a village and talk to one of their sages and ask him to teach you that ritual. He will then do so, and then you can gain another one again just by doing the usual surviving, and message will pop up again, rinse, repeat, and you'll have a bunch of rituals in the end. Now here we have the actual skills page. Now you have 5 points that you can spend to improve each of these. Again, you definitely want to make sure that you are prioritizing certain things. Excuse me. Now, for a hunter like this, I definitely want to increase spear. Sadly, I can only put 1 point into it, but that is what it is. So the main thing I do, you can use a bow as a hunter, crossbow, all that kind of stuff, but I find that at times they just aren't bloody accurate. So I like to actually use javelins myself. So I would equip myself with 2 or 3 javelins, maybe 4. They're a bit heavy, so generally that 4 is the limit. And then hopefully when I encounter an animal, I spawn next to it, or close to it. That gives me an opportunity to whip a javelin at it quickly, which could hit it in the leg or something, which would slow it down or bleed it, in which case it would definitely make it a lot quicker to take it down. This doesn't always happen. Most of the time you have to chase after it, follow its tracks. You might lose it, so it can be a real pain, but, you know, having this as high as you can is good for that style of play. Dodge, of course, if you happen to be fighting other people or animals, dodging can be useful. But the rest of the points, I usually spend 1 point on a combat skill, and then spend the rest of my points in the lore and craft skills. So my carpentry is kind of sad, so is my timber crafting, and a bunch of my other skills. Now you can see how the fishing is really low. I would not gain very much from the fishing at all. So let's see here. Hide working I definitely want to put point into. Tracking I'll put a point into. Survival is tempting. I've got 2 more points. Gotta decide what I want to put those into. It's a bit debatable. Carpentry is definitely good for building handicrafts and utensils. I'll put a point into that just so I can assist with crafting of the javelins and timber crafting as well. That should be good. I could have gone for herb lore, but herb lore is usually pretty decent to level up. You just had to keep checking herbs you find, and then I'll slowly level up over time. Same thing for fishing and all that. I wish the stats for those had been a little bit higher, but you know, these guys are more strength based. They don't get as many overall points. I believe the Owl Tribe would get a bit more for the overall points in this regard, but still, that's pretty damn good. So let's go ahead and continue with this. Now at this point, we have a couple of options. The world is going to generate. I can hit C to load up the cultural regions. My actual spawning location is this little red dot up here, or square, not dot, cough. So we can see the various tribes and whatnot. Some of the best tribes to be with really depends. If you're working for, excuse me, if you're working at fishing, obviously being near the Seal tribe or the Islanders would be a good thing. But mostly the Seal tribe to start off with, because you wouldn't be able to reach the Islanders without getting a boat first, which can be a little expensive. Other than that, if you're working on just hunting and survival, being in this area here generally is pretty good because you got these 3 tribes you can trade with. They usually have some really good stuff. The Drick have a lot of really expensive tools and high quality items that I usually gather a bunch of furs up together and then eventually travel down to the Drick and trade them for high quality tools. Now we can re-randomize our starting location. We can re-randomize the world using W. We can start within your home culture, which is H. I like to just kind of tap it around a couple of times till I spawn somewhere nice. This is pretty good. I'm going to go here. We're not too far from 2 different tribes. We're up a bit out into the wilds here. Not quite this wild, which would be really... I really want to go hunting here. I haven't gone hunting here before, but I really do want to at some point. And then, of course, we have these guys, the evil dudes, down here. Don't want to mess with them. So once we've figured out where we want to go, we just have to E to enter the world. And we are good to go. Now at this point, we get to decide our starting scenario. This decides what initial items we have and how we start out. The Unreal world, you just start playing in the wild. You have maybe a couple of tools and such, nothing too mind-blowing. Same thing for the village. You start off next to a village with a couple of bits and bobs, nothing too crazy. Runaway slave. I believe you don't get very much for this. You're pretty much practically naked when you escape from the Nerjurpits. Whatever the hell, it's probably terrible. This is actually one of my favorite ones because it starts you off with some decent stuff, bow and all that kind of good stuff. So essentially, your father was killed by a beast nearby, whether it's a bear, a wolf, or whatever, but he drops clothing, tools, weapons, which can be really useful early on. So if you're going for a bow hunter, I would definitely want to go for that one, because you can usually get at least a short bow, if not a hunting bow. Lonely Settler. This one can be good if you really want to start, if you start late off in the season, like say summer or autumn, because you already have 2 cottages that are nearly done. Otherwise, you just won't have time to build them if you start off in the later seasons, and that could be dangerous, to say the least. This is probably the most difficult one. Hurt, helpless, and afraid. You're wounded. You barely have anything to work with. Traps and trapping. Start fully equipped with the tools for passive hunting. I'm not I'm not as great with the passive hunting because I always forget to check my traps at times. But it's still a fun thing to do. You just lay out traps, you check them every now and then, and you might catch some good stuff, especially if you lay them in nicely populated areas. Fishermen, of course, you start off with some nice fishing tools and equipment, the fishing rod, a couple of nets, which can be really, they're essentially deploy and then pick them up every 2 days or so when you will gather a bunch of fish. Abandoned trap fence, which I mentioned before, is one of the ways to hunt the big prey, where you find a choke point between two land masses and then fill it with fences. In between the land masses, you fill it with fences and holes so that the animals will fall into it, then you can finish them from above. This can be dangerous, though. There have been times where a bear has fallen into that trap, someone went to finish it off, and the thing pretty much leapt up and just took his head off with one swipe. So you got to be damn careful at times with those things. Of course, you could put spikes in the traps, but then they could die and rot pretty quickly. Abandoned camp. You find an old camp with a shelter, firewood, and some useful items. Agriculture, if you want to work on farming, which, generally speaking, I don't tend to do till my second year. There be robbers. You encounter a band of ruffians in the wild, so you have to run away from those. And not all who wander are lost. You set off in the unforgiving wilderness with a four-legged companion, which is not necessarily a dog. Could be a cow, could be a sheep, could be a number of things. Would be really lucky if you got a dog right off the bat, though. So I'm going to go with the abandoned camp. We start off with a shelter, some firewood, and some useful items. Although I'm going to still show you how to build a fire and whatnot. We're going to go with that. Now, here again, we have three options. The first one, just hitting escape, would launch the game immediately. Free gameplay, you just start off and run off naked into the wilderness. The second being the beginning of the actual tutorial. This will teach you all of the basics for establishing fires and whatnot. It'll also give you a bunch of free items. So in a way, this can also be exploited a bit because of that, just because you get some free items. Now, if you choose to just start off like this, that does not mean you have completely abandoned the tutorial and all the stuff you could get from that. You can activate both of these at any time. But let me actually show you this example of that. Go escape, head straight into Unreal World. Character creation completed. Press the any key. Where's my any key? Among the peoples are several different runes and myths with the origin of the world and whatnot. So this is basically all the lore of the world, which I'm going to kind of skip through here. Some first-timer info here. Abandoned camp. That'd be the scenario we start off with. And welcome to the game! So on the top left here, we can see the general time of day at the moment, as well as the temperature, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. We're in a coniferous forest. It's the later winter, which is like the early spring. Beginning of the Swidden month, morning. We can see our current carry capacity, how much of a penalty we are taking because of that. Our current walking speed, which is actually not that great, sadly. Go Shift R. Oh no, our running speed is 12, so that's not too bad. So I can run from 12 to 10 and then turn it off and recover. And that would be good enough to hunt some nice prey. Now, in order to move around into the world, you can use the arrow keys to kind of turn your view around and you move in the direction that you're pointing, like so. I personally like using the numpad for this. But you can also use the arrow keys. Ooh, we actually start off with a bow and some arrows. Very nice, even though I probably won't use them because I'm not skilled at the bow. Still. Now, on the very bottom here, we can see the map zoom, the current time of day, or the current day and week. So it's the second week before the summer season. On the top right, of course, I said we had our carry capacity. We have our fatigue. Fatigue. As we are doing tasks, running, the fatigue will build up, which will give us an additional penalty to everything that we do. Right now, I'd have a 2% penalty for, say, throwing my spear or doing a craft of some sort. Injury also affects the overall penalty. Blood loss, starvation, all of these will affect our overall kind of initial stat here about how we're doing. Of course, as you can see here, I turn this from Shift R. From walking to running, this will show, if I go Shift H, or no, just H actually, we go into hiding mode, which will decrease my speed even further, but allow me to sneak up to the prey. Now, hiding and sneaking isn't that easy. You can hide, or you can hide and just kind of travel like that, and that will level up your hiding skill very nicely over time. if you so wish. We can see the current heading that I am pointed in. If I use this key, I can snap to it, or if I use the 3 and 1 keys on my numpad, we will snap into the multiple directions here. Down below we have our current nutrition, warmth, and vigor. So right now we are quite nourished. As we get hungrier, this will increase. We would hit Shift E, so capital E to eat something, or Q to quench either near a pool or from a bag or a water skin to quench our thirst. Currently we are cold, but we are vigorous. So by wearing clothing, by starting a fire, this will go up. The cold or the temperature will actually affect how vigorous we are. As we get more exhausted for working or just spending a lot of time awake, this will deteriorate to the point where we are dead tired, at which point we have to either pass out or it will forcibly just knock us out somewhere. At which point, also, especially during the early season, it kind of sucks if you don't have a shelter like this, because the rain will wake you up, but you're still dead tired, so you have to, like, you'd move 2 feet, and then you'd pass out again, and then it would rinse, repeat, because the rain keeps waking you up. So you definitely don't want to be exhausted out in the wilderness without a shelter. So I'm actually going to go ahead and build. I'm going to kind of play this as if I had not started with the shelter here, and just kind of show you how to build one. Now, let me actually check my inventory and see what I started off with. Nice! I actually got a hand axe and a hunting knife. Really good. That's going to help me with cutting up deer. Although I probably won't do it on this character. I'll do it with the other character, in which case we'll go hunting with my dog. So I opens up the inventory, escape, can get out of that. All the keys, you can go into Shift question mark for the commands, and this will give you a good rundown of a lot of the keys. Looking around, you can go S for your skills, L for your character's log. I believe, let me see, it's F2, 3, no, oh yeah, F3 is for looking at something, like an animal, to see if it's fatigued. F4 would bring up the rituals. Yeah, here we go, F5. So F5 brings this up so I could trigger the tutorials here if I so wished. Which would begin to teach me how to make a fire and everything, and eventually how to catch fish and all that kind of stuff. So it's definitely worth doing. Now, let me actually check my map. So I'm going to hit enter. Oh, I actually can't see too far around right now. Let me move a bit here. So we're in a batch of tall trees right now, so we cannot see that far. If I can find a mountain around here, I'd be able to see quite the distance. So, let me use my mouse wheel here to zoom out. So we actually do have some nice lakes nearby. Our initial camp here, which is nice. Now, typically when you're hunting prey, you want to try and get into these tall trees. I guess the game kind of assumes that you're climbing the trees and looking around. So with this, you're able to spot prey a lot easier. Let's go ahead and head back to the camp. Enter again to re-enter the camp, and it will bring you back to where you first left, or where you last left, I should say, in the zone. Pardon me. All right. Now, right here is our current wielded weapons and tools. Now, I can create some. Let's take a look what we have here. So we have a single arrow and a crossbow, actually. It's not even a bow, it's a crossbow. We have a slender tree trunk, some firewood, and just a regular tree trunk. Alright, so since I have a hand axe, we can chop down a tree and begin doing some stuff. Now, when you first start off, you might get a hand axe, you might not. If you don't, you might be able to locate some of these fallen trunks, just these slim ones here, lying around. At least hopefully you would. You might have to search around for quite a bit to find them. But in order to build up a shelter, just a basic shelter for you to relax, you would go S for the skills, V for survival, and then C for cut branches and twigs from a tree. Now, you want to get them from these guys. Then we can hit R to repeat. We'll once again take that. There's a willow grouse nearby. How many do we have there? 31, that should be enough. So going again, skills, survival, V, and S will tell us exactly what we need to build the shelter. Over to the side, so we need 3 slender tree trunks and 20 spruce twigs. Now, right now we only have the 1 slender trunk over there. Now, these smaller trees, like this guy right here, will produce slender trunks. The big ones will produce the big trunks, like this guy. So since we do have an axe, I'm going to go skills, timbercraft, which is M, and then F for fell tree, and then north towards the item. Or, well, I shouldn't, because I'm not surrounded by multiple trees, it should do it automatically in the direction. So space. You can see it takes time. It was a bit of a heavy job. So now we have 4 slender tree trunks. I can also go Shift M from this, and that'll bring me straight to this building menu. From here, and actually this is actually expanded because I am using a mod that expands how many items you can have. So in the base game, you will not see things like cloth garments, woolen garments, ironworking, and so on. A lot of this stuff you will not see. Same thing for fishing equipment. I can actually make fishing nets because of the expanded crafting mod, which you can't do in the base game, which is a shame because they did add durability to them, so they do get destroyed over time, and they're usually quite expensive to buy. But anyway, moving aside, going to buildings, enter. We have, of course, wooden building, which would be the kind of cabin, essentially. So you'd have to build the various walls, fireplace, you can put a bed, and so on, a well. Oh, let me go Shift M again, building. There's a coda, which is the kind of a, you know, classic hide cover, or branches covered by hide, basically. I believe here we call it a teepee here. Anyway. So you can build these, you have to build the framework, and then you can put the walls, and it's just a basic kind of, you know, slightly better than the shelter kind of thing. Go back to this again. Next we have the fence, which is just a fence around your property to keep animals out. If you have a field, maybe you want to keep them out of the field, or keep any wolves away from your cattle or something, that would work for that. Cellar is actually quite important when you start getting a more permanent location, because that allows you to... Excuse me. The cellar allows you to cool your meats and everything. It basically allows you to lengthen the time it takes for your food to go bad, which can definitely help early on with some of the meat stuff. Now, what we're looking for, though, is the shelter, which I can also access from the S, V, and S menu. Let's go space. We have everything we need. So we'll begin constructing the shelter. If we don't construct it entirely, it will leave a gray kind of outline here, and we will then be able to go S, V, and S again and continue it from where we left off. Now we are a bit cold, so let's go ahead and... How many branches do we have here? I have 11 spruce twigs. So currently I also have 2 rye bread, which I will eat, but I will want to keep this smoked stuff as long as I can. Alright, let's use... Do I want to use the slender trunk? Sure, let's use the slender trunk. So I can pick up the slender trunk by hitting comma, which would pick it up. I can drop it using D. I can also push it to a location using P. So P in a direction. I can use M when I'm over top of it, select the items, to put them into move mode, so they're now moving them. This is useful for hauling a whole bunch of trunks that you have gathered. Say I cut down all these trees and I wanted to move them over here. I could use M on one, drag them onto another, because you can't just put those in your inventory. It's not going to work. You know, they're way too huge and heavy to just put in your inventory. Let me hit M again to put this down. So you would use the movement system, or the movement button, I should say, to grab the log and just haul it from tile to tile. Now, the more logs you have, obviously, the more time it's going to take per move, but, you know, that's the way you haul them around for the most part. Now, next thing to do is to start a fire, so S, V, and B for build a fire. Might take a couple attempts. There we go. That should get me nice and warm. Now, at this point, you don't want to be jumping onto this fire. If I go straight, you cannot walk through the fire. It'll warn me that I can't do that. I can say grab... Let me grab some of this firewood here. Let's grab... Oh, let's say 3 firewood. So I can drop the 3 firewood at my feet, and then push it in the direction. So I've now added 3 firewood to the fire, making it even more warm. So that'll help to warm me up. Now, when you do happen to hunt an animal, let's just say I hunt down a deer. I'm going to use this as an example right now. Once you've hunted a deer, you have to do 2 things. First would be you go into your skills, you go into hide working, and you want to skin the animal. The first thing you got to do is skin it. You butcher it, you lose the skin, which is pretty much the worst thing you can do, is butcher an animal without skinning it first. That would be just massive, massive waste. So you want to skin the animal. You want to clean the skin as soon as you can. If you don't clean the skin at least fairly soon, it will rot very, very quickly. You can also you can cure the skin, which will take about 20 days, give or take, 20, 25 days. Quite a bit of time, but then it's preserved for a long time, and you can tan it whenever you want. Typically, though, I don't bother preserving them for the most part. I just tan them because it's a much quicker process. At the most, it would only take a couple of days to go through the whole process. So typically, I just clean the skins immediately, drag them home with the meat, and then immediately start tanning them when I get home. And then work on the preservation of the meat. Now, like I said, in the early spring, when you're gathering meat, when you're hunting animals or fishing or whatever it happens to be, you're going to want to preserve food for the longer period of time. Now, until we get to summer, we can use the side of our shelter here as a building to preserve, as a wall to preserve meat. Now, in order to do that, we need to make a cord, which is used to tie up meat on. You can imagine it as to tying meat on a line between two sticks or something to dry it, but it needs to be attached to a side of a building, which our shelter acts as. So we go Shift M, utility articles, and in utility articles we have cord. I also have a bunch of other stuff here you won't see in the base game, of course, but the main one we're going to be looking at is the cord. So the cord requires cloth. Now we are actually wearing a bunch, so actually don't hold up a second. I actually have to take off my clothes. So we'll go Shift T. Let's take off my undershirt. Now when hunting, especially in the summer, I like to, or early spring here, I like to take off a lot of the clothes because although I can start a fire, it'll make me colder. I can start a fire to get warm again. And it helps to drop the weight so that we can run faster for a longer period of time without affecting our stamina, essentially. Alright, so now that we've taken off the shirt, Shift M again. Utility articles, cord. Let's make 2. Well, you know what? Let's go for the whole shebang. Let's go 5. So each one takes 0.50 pounds of cloth, which can be quite a bit. But each cord can be used for quite a bit of meat. And I'll explain that in a second once I make this here. So go for that. We have the knife, so it's fantastic. It'll take quite a bit of time to do this, as it is a fairly resource-heavy task. Oh, looks like, oh, you can see right here. So a bird has just, willow grouse has just showed up in my area, which has caused it to ask if I want to abort the task and maybe throw a spear at the thing or something. But it's a pretty small prey, so typically I don't bother with it, as they're a bit hard to hit. One good thing you could do, though, is if you pick up rocks, you can whip them at things like birds and squirrels and stuff, and it makes it a lot easier to get them. But I wouldn't waste an arrow or a javelin on them. It's not going to hit, for the most part. Unless you're really lucky, it's not going to hit. Now, since I have my fire here, let me also quickly create a javelin. Let me see if I can chop down another tree here quickly. Skills. Or actually, in that case, let me drop the slender trunk and push it onto my fire. Make it a big fire again. Okay, S, M, fell tree. Alright, hand axe is a satisfactory tool for this job. Okay, so we now have 5 trunks, slender trunks. Now I'm only going to use 3 of these because this especially is a very long task to do. So let's go Shift M, go, I believe it's utility articles to start off with. No, it's not. Shift M, lumber, staff. So in order to make a javelin, first you have to make a staff. I want to make 3 staves, which is a pretty quick thing to do. No. Next, you want to go Shift M again, go to weapons, and then you want to make a javelin out of those 3 staves. We have our fire, which is needed for hardening the head. Now this will take a bit of time as well. You can see we're definitely sweating now. We're a lot hotter than we were previously. We've gained quite a bit of hunger and thirst. So let's go ahead and eat one of my rye breads. Shift E. I'll have to go get something to drink here soon. So now I have a bunch of javelins I can use to engage a creature or animal with. The next thing I want to do is wield them. So I'd hit W, select the javelin, W, select the javelin. I like to wield them before throwing them. You can also throw them directly from your inventory, but it saves you time if you already have them in hand. So now I can hit T, select the javelin I have, select a target, enter, and throw it away. Whip it right at the enemy. Alright, you can pick up that using the comma key. Now, I was describing the preserving of meat. Okay, so with the preserving of meat, again, it had to take place early spring. Late autumn, I believe, is when you can also dry it. Or you have to use a smoking shed, which is essentially just a house with a fireplace, and that's sealed off. That's it. You just light the fireplace, you put it in there, and you can smoke it the same way you can dry it here. It's pretty easy, I have to say. Now, once you have the cords and you have the meat, there's actually a specific thing you have to do. The way it works is that the first cord can smoke or dry 19 cuts of meat. But every cord after that only does an additional 10. So if you use 2 cords on a stack of meat, you would only be able to use 20, or you'd only be able to smoke or dry 29 cuts of meat. However, if you use 1 cord at a time, you would get 19 cuts each time. So it's better to do it one at a time so that you get the full amount out of each cord, because cords, especially early on, can be fairly expensive because you're ripping up your clothes basically to make them. Pardon me. So now that we've covered the basics of that, let's go ahead and go into the world a bit here and see if we can find some prey to hunt. Actually, let me go back here. I want to drop off some stuff here, so I'm not going to need the hand axe right now. I'm going to want to leave behind a lot of stuff here. I will also leave the cords behind. Leave behind some smoked reindeer cut. Let me take off some stuff as well. Take off the tunic and trousers, so I can just have my boots. I'm also apparently running right now. Shift R. Looks like it still has the same... No, I still have the same penalty regardless, so we'll just wear these then. No sense getting cold if there's no benefit. Alright, so let's hit enter, go out into the world, and see if we can find something. Oh, what is it? A badger. Sure, let's try for the badger. It's pretty small. I don't think I'm going to hit it, but let's try. So there's the badger right there. You usually start off spawning pretty dang close to the prey. I can initially start off hiding. He is sleeping at the moment. Oh, he noticed me. Now badgers can be vicious little bastards. Oh, where'd he go? Oh, he's running. He sees me now. So Shift R. I can begin running after him. Now, badger's really small, so he's not going to be running too far. Now, with the... Again, I have to look up the term properly. Carousel, or cursorial hunting, cough. Especially with the speed I have, you want to go down about 2 kilometers an hour, then you want to stop running until your fatigue reduces. Then you want to run again, and you want to keep doing this in as sustained a way as you can to hunt the enemy, or hunt the enemy. I always say the enemy, but hunt your prey, basically. Gotten down to 11. Now I've lost sight of him. Little bugger's fast. Now, if it was a larger animal, I'm going to stop running after him, because I'm probably not going to catch him. If it was a larger animal, he'd be leaving some telltale tracks behind. This guy, although I could find his tracks if I looked around, it would be pretty damn tiny and kind of hard to find. So overall, I'm not going to bother. It's a badger. You know, it's not a deer or a stag or something along those lines. So zoom out a little bit. See what we can find. Right over there, like this right here. If this bit doesn't connect up to land, this would be a really, really good place for a trap fence. Because it's the bridge between 2 bits of land. And it's fairly thin. Actually, we could have 2 trap fences here, even one here, one on the other side. And it would prove to be fairly effective. Alright, so mostly you're just traveling around the world here, trying to locate some prey items. You'll usually spot them up on, if you go on the trees like this for a good view, you'll usually spot them in a distance. If you find a mountain, that's even better. Right now I'm not finding any though. These are the swamps or marshes. I like to call them the deer plains because it usually makes it really, really easy to find deer on them. Not to mention that there is a lot of ponds there. So if you chase the animal into the ponds, they're going to become tired much, much more quickly. Oh, there's one. There's one. So we're actually going to go to the water here, have a quick drink. Oh, Q. Enter. We'll drink from the water. Now, there's no negative effect from drinking directly from the water. You're not going to get sick or nothing. Oh, there he is. So I want to walk directly into him, which will then engage us in combat. Now, I'm already tired, which is not that great, but let's go for this. We found a stag. Alright, please don't be in too dense forest. Good, I have a shot. It's not a good shot, but I have a shot. So I'm going to throw my javelin at him. Go aim for the body. I never want to aim for anything else at this distance. Come on, luck. Come on, luck. Oh, I missed. Damn. He took off running. Sadly, I can't see him in these trees. Now I can use S and T to see his tracks. So they're very fresh tracks heading to the southeast. So he went this way. He went to the east. Now, the trick of this is we need to keep disturbing the animal. If the animal keeps running, then we will continue tiring it out. Okay, I'm already up to 10, so let's stop. So if he keeps running, he will tire out fairly quickly. He's running away to the east, so we caught up to him a bit. I'm going to run a bit more. Oh, there he is. Now, if we hit F3 and we examine the animal, we can see how tired he is. He is slightly fatigued. That's good. Very often, when you're running after them, you typically find that you can't keep up. And if you can't, they will stop. They will rest. They will start going around in circles, which makes it really damn difficult to figure out where the hell their tracks are going. But the important part is you can't give them time to rest. If they gain their fatigue back, then it's much, much more difficult to get them. So we're going to keep following after this guy now. I'm just walking now to regain some stamina. Oh, there he goes. Let's run a little bit. Where'd you go, you little bastard? Oh, there he goes. Skills tracking. He went to the northeast. Now, this doesn't always tell you the truth sometimes. Or it'll still be very difficult to find the tracks. Okay. Oh, he's milling around here a bit. This is going to be difficult. Numerous and mixed. Oh. I saw him there for a second. Oh, that's a wild gross. There it goes. Another one. Tracking. Very fresh tracks heading to the northeast. There's more. We're giving this guy way too much time now. There he is. How is he? Please be more than slightly fatigued. Very fatigued. Here he is fatigued, but not very fatigued yet. Still, though, fatigued is good. We're wearing him down. We are wearing him down. I'm actually going to run a bit longer than I usually would now, just so I can continue doing so. Now, the thing with the deer is they run back and forth. They zigzag a lot. So if you can really figure out their general direction of approach, or of where they're going, you can cut your time tracking or your running time down by a pretty large margin. Okay, he is very fatigued now, so he's not going to be able to escape from us much longer. So I'm going to stop running now. Oh, shit. This is a bit of a trap here. It's a trap! So sometimes they don't even have to be fatigued. They will get trapped in trees like that, where I was just at, where they can't easily escape. And it makes them really easy to catch up to. So we are now getting close enough to him that you can see he's exhausted. I'm walking, and he can't run away from me now. He is absolutely breathless. So he's not getting away at this point. So I get close to him. I can hit 2 to engage in melee, rather than just throwing my spear at him. And then I'll select the direction towards him. Now I want to use the point, and I want to go for its head. It's a bit of a tricky shot, but it has the chance of instantly killing him and doing the least amount of damage to the hide. So a perfect thrust landed on its hip. It stumbles and falls. It rises to its feet. If it falls unconscious, it becomes incredibly easy to kill. Perfect thrust. Hit it in the shoulder. Now, just because you've tired it out to this point does not mean it's helpless. It can still attack back. And can be fairly vicious in doing so. Oh, got it. I got it. I glanced off its neck, hurting it. And it's fallen prone and unconscious. So now I can finish him off. 2, go in the direction. Point. Go for the skull. Perfect thrust, and it drops dead instantly. Woohoo! We caught our first deer. So that is how you do the carousal hunting. Or cursorial hunting. God damn it. Cursorial! Cursorial! Fuck. Anyway, I digress. So, we have our first kill. Now that we have our first kill, we're going to want to butcher him. Or not butcher him. Cut off the hide and then butcher him. So, skills, hide working, skin the animal. Now, because my hide working skill isn't that high, I doubt I'm going to get a decent skin. I might get a good skin if I'm lucky. But, yeah. Now, hides are your bread and butter. Oh no, I did get a decent one. Woohoo! Now, the decent skin can still be brought down in quality through the tanning process. So it really depends on how well we do in that. The next thing we want to do is butcher up the meat. So we'll hit, let's eat first. I'm already weary though. So we're going to hit B to butcher, which is going to cut him up for us. We're extremely tired, so we're probably going to pass out here. Yep. Let's take a nap. So Shift Z to take a nap. Eat some more rye bread. We'll continue butchering the meat. So you can see I have 224 pounds on me right now. It's a lot of meat. That's a full deer I'm carrying on me. And yet, I'm only suffering a 27% penalty. So you can see why I love the Calmalane. They are really, really strong. So now that we've collected our meat, we're going to want to move back to our home. So if I hit F3, no. What are these buttons? F6? Yeah, there we go, F6. So F6 opens up the world map. I can actually also hit C to toggle the cultural regions. And show and hide map markers, such as my settlement, which shows up right here. We also have our traps, nets, any caves we found, any villages we found. If you're trying to find a village, basically they are somewhere in the middle of this square. So by going towards the middle of it, you will be able to find a village. So there's quite a few villages just to the south of us. Let's go ahead and head home, and we can begin the process of tanning this baby. Check the map. F6. So our actual house is just right over to the east here. But we need a source of water to tan the skin. No. I'm no interest in that small prey. So I'll go enter here right next to the river. And I'm going to tan my hides here. So let's go skills, hide working. We want to clean the skin first thing. Stag skin. So it's a 4-step process basically. The first step is cleaning the skin. The second step is tanning it with animal fat, if I'm not mistaken. We'll be able to see here in a second after I'm, well, more than a second because it takes quite a bit of time to clean off such a large skin. Hours and hours to clean off such a large skin. There's a goose hawk nearby. So it took me 5 hours to clean off that skin. So let's have a drink from the water. Eat some more rye bread. Okay, next we want to go skills, hide working again. We want to tan the skin, clean stag skin, and use the stag fat. Now, if you happen to have lost the stag fat, if you ate it by mistake or something, there are certain bark you can use for the process. I believe it was birch bark, which is a kind of a white tree that you can usually find on the world map. So we have everything we need. After we use the fat to tan the skin, it'll take a couple of days' time. We then come back and soak it in water, which cleans off the hide, and then the final stage is taking the hide and using a log or a workbench and beating it with a club, and that would give us the final result. So we can see here it will be ready by early morning. After that, we can continue the tanning process. Okay, let's head home and we can begin the process of actually smoking this meat, or not smoking it, drying it. So in order to do that, we want to go to the Skills Cooking menu, so SC, and then down to dry for preservation. So actually we have 3 versions of preservation. We can dry it, we can salt it, or we can smoke it. Now salt is fairly expensive. I kind of wish there was a way we could build a unit next to the sea to create salt, like a metal bin or something we could fill with salt water that would dry over a couple of days and produce salt, but sadly that's not in as of yet. I would like it to be, though. That would make it really nice for especially playing as a sea tribe. But anywho, the main ones we're going to be focusing on, though, are drying and smoking. Now, also for actual cooking, the most you're going to be doing is roasting or boiling herbal beverages. The rest of these usually require a lot of vegetables and spices and stuff. So, for the most part, you're just going to be roasting or boiling or drying your food. So, let's start off with drying. So, we want to select the stag cuts. We have 14 spare ones, so I'll probably, I don't know, probably because this is what was left off after we'd finished carving off the first 59 cuts. So I'll probably just cook this as per regular, so that we don't waste too many cords. So once you have it, you select the meat. We want to actually specifically enter how many we want to enter here, or we want to smoke. In which case we go space and 19, which is the most efficient amount per cord. So 19, enter. Place for drying it next to a tent, which we have. Oh, I forgot my tying equipment over here. Whoopsies. Let's do that again. Shift M. Cook. Oh no, Shift M. Skills. Cooking. Drying. Space 19. Enter. Or space, sorry. Select the inferior cord. Space. Begins the process, and we are now beginning the drying. So in 25 days, we will have 19 preserved cuts of meat. Now this will last us through winter. I believe it lasts about a year, give or take. But either way, this will last us quite a long time. So we're going to repeat that repeat that process. R, space, 19, enter, or enter space, repeat, space, 19, space, select, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. So you can see how many cords it takes. Alright, we're getting tired, so let's go pass out in our tent. Alright, repeat. Then we'd want to make more cords. So basically, we want to keep just enough meat on us, basic meat on us, that we can survive. Fuck this cough. Seriously. That we can survive for the meantime. For the stuff that we don't quite finish off right now, we would want to take to one of the villages and trade it for some smoked meat. But once this initial batch is done, then we're done. Any other hunting we do besides this, the amount of meat I'm smoking right now is enough to help you survive the first like 2 seasons, basically, if not 3 seasons worth of your personal consumption. So, clothing, or that's clothing, skill, capital M, utility articles, cords, 3. We go grab my shirt here. I can only do 4 of these, so let's do that. Let's go 4. Use this. Oh, no? Really? I guess we don't have quite enough in there. Pardon me. Alright. Looks like we're a bit cold, so we have to make something to keep us warm. A fire to keep us warm soon. So, skills, cooking. Same thing. Dry. 19. And we're good to go. Hands feel cold. Too bad for the hands. 1 more batch, and that's all we're going to be doing. The rest we'll just cook and sell if we can. I'll take a quick jump over to the village just to kind of show you what's what for that. Alright, now this is one hell of a long tutorial. Apologies, but that's just the kind of game this is. SVB, build a fire. So, let's eat some... Actually, we're gonna wait until this is cooked. So, now that we have all the stuff we want smoking, we need to cook the rest of the meat. So, skills cooking, roast, everything. Now, the maximum we will just roast will be 10. That's the maximum we can cook in a batch. But we can make additional on top of that, and it'll just be cooked over time. Now, by using the dash key, we can stand still and wait over time. As you can see, it'll tell you pretty quickly that it's done. at which point we want to pick it up using comma. Now, they will have different quality to them. Some could be decent, some could be poor. Like this one. Oh, that's a wrong thing, actually. Oh, well. Let's use one of my roast stag cuts. It's bland. So this is a bland stag cut. This could be a good quality one. And so on and so forth. So the next step would be going back to our hides, which should be done right about now. They should also show up on the map, but it's not quite this time. There it is, though. Let's have a drink. Alright, you see a tanning hide skin here. I can try and pick it up. It works, then good to go. Skills hide working. We can continue the process of tanning the hide. Alright, now I need to chop down one of these trees. So skills M, fell a tree. Hunting knife is a bit of an awkward tool. Alright, so actually I want to make a club. So Shift M, weapons, and club. This is what we need for... Oh. Yeah, cancel. Since the tool I'm currently using is incredibly unhandy for this, we're going to go grab my hand axe again. Which should be much, much better at doing that. We're going to pass out, though, because it's raining, and that's not going to help us any. Let's finish out these bland cuts. Because they won't give us as good nutrition. Or at least they... yeah. Alright. Skills. Fell a tree. Make. Weapon. Club. Much, much better. Much, much better. Look how fast it is now. And we even got a decent club. Very nice. Very nice. Alright, so let's go check up on the hide and see how the process is doing here. It's rinsed, so we pick it up, and we go through the last process of tanning this hide. Which is going to this log over here, or we could also use a workbench in a village, or build one in one of our shacks, our wood cabins. But for now, we're going to use this. So skills, hide working, tan the skin, selected in our inventory. Use the beater, which would be our club. And this is also a very long and labor-intensive process. You can see the effort is quite heavy, so that's going to fatigue us really, really quickly and make us quite hungry and thirsty. So once again, this is probably going to take, I'm guessing, 8 hours. Now, you don't want to cancel this process. It'll actually tell you right here if the process can be continued after canceling it. We're a bit malnourished, which is alright. So, we produced a decent stag fur, which is really, really good. That's a decent quality fur. Now, I'm a bit thirsty. Now, you can also drink. Oh, I'm actually tired still. So, we're going to rest a bit. Now, you can also drink from the world map here as well. You don't have to go right down to the water. Alright. So, now if I look into my inventory, we have a large 24-pound stag fur. And this is a good quality stag fur. Now, you can sell this as it is right now, but typically what I do, once I have a high-quality fur of this kind, is I break it up into parts. I essentially make gloves or mittens out of it. And with that, I would then sell it and make a good profit out of it from each individual piece. Otherwise, you're going to trade for like much less than you could get just by selling the gloves versus the giant fur. But for that fur, I could get a lot of good stuff. But anyway, that's about what I'm going to show off for this for now. That covers a lot of the basics for how to survive via hunting. It's the same kind of thing for fishing, except you're using active fishing, in which you would go grab your fishing rod, go to the side of a lake or a river, and just use skills F for fishing, active fishing, and just cast. The other thing you would do would be casting a net, which again would be S, F, and then set a net. So you would swim out into the water, you would set the net, and you would go back. If you had a boat or a raft, you could also, paddle out in that and set and retrieve nets via that. So these are the passive kind of fishing. So you just place them, you collect them, and you would hopefully get, do it at the right time. So you either get no fish, get fish, or they're rotten because you waited too long. Now let's go ahead and Shift S, or not Shift Q, quit and save, yes. Save the character, yes. So let's load my other character here, just to take a quick look at some of the other kind of stuff here. So this is a bit more advanced. I actually do have skin rinsing right here. We have a punt, which is the more advanced boat. There's pretty much the two kinds. There is a raft you can build out of logs and rope, and then there's the punt, which is just a much, much lighter actual boat that can carry a lot more goods as well. I can put like 20 logs on this thing and then actually take it down the river as an efficient way to haul wood from one area to another. I would need to equip a paddle, which I actually do have on me right now, and then simply just move out. And I begin moving down the river here. My dog is actually following me. We have a cow in here, which I built a fence around to both protect him, as well as to get some milk from him. So from that hide that I got, also another thing I would want to make immediately would be a skin. Now right now I actually do have a rough skin of milk, so I can go queue and drink that, which will actually not only take care of my thirst, but a little bit of hunger as well. You can milk them, I believe, once a day now. I actually have those traps there because I have a lot of animals trying to get at the... if I go F3 here for a second. Right here we have my actual bed. This is just my storage area for firewood and all the components. We have a bench here for, you know, doing hides. The fireplace, fireplace for, of course, the warmth, and as well as smoking meat right next to it. And then right here we have my cellar, which I built indoors because animals kept trying to get at it. So I was like, screw that, I'm just going to put it indoors. But the animals still try to get in through my window, so they get caught by these traps and I can take them down. Now these are a simple loop trap that you can build out of a cord just by going Shift-M, trapping, and then loop snare. It's the most simple kind of trap. So you build a loop snare, you put a piece of meat or something in it, and then you just wait for the animal to be caught. You go up and grab it and you're good to go. We also have some berry bushes you can find out in the wild like this. Usually in the summer, they will begin to be harvestable. You just go up to it. You can hit comma to pick from it, and you would get a fistful of blueberries, kind of like I just did right there. Or, if I can find another one that's ready to be harvested. Oh, what the hell? Heard something. Huh, I thought I heard something. Nothing was caught in my trap over here, so... Here's one. So if I go to skills... Is it herb lore or agriculture I'm looking for? That should examine the plant. Oh, it's agriculture, I think. Skills, agriculture, and harvest is a different way to go about it. Okay, so this one can only be gathered by just picking it up, but some of them can be actually harvested. These are also blueberry shrubs. So some herbs can be harvested. You can pick them up just to get the actual herb themselves, or you can harvest them to potentially get seeds. Same thing for wild wheat and such. You can just pick them up to get the main ingredient, or you can harvest them to get additional seeds as well that you can plant. Now, hunting with your dog is a bit different. Let me actually go get on my... See if I can drop stuff off here quickly. I have a lot of crap on me right now. Let's drop off a bunch of it. Drop the mace. I actually have an iron helm and everything here. 58 stag cuts. This is the bark you can harvest off certain trees. Let me actually see if I have one nearby. I'm not sure if they can be harvested from these trees. Let's double check. Oh, shit. That's a freaking deer that just went past me. So I'm going to go shift... No, not shift T. Shift C. Talk to my dog. I'm going to have him attack that stag. So the dog will immediately go after him. I'm going to start running as well. Wield one of my javelins. So the stag is going to run away. You can see this character I actually built even faster than the previous one. It had a much, much higher speed and agility. So it's capable of running much farther. Now I'm going to zoom out all the way. And this is all the way, actually. And I'm just going to follow after my dog. So he's going to exhaust the animal much, much faster than I could. Because he can actually keep up with him. Alright, whoa, I'm too fatigued. Way too fatigued. So the trick with this is just to keep following the general direction. And then you hear that right there. You'll see like a bit of an alarm go off over your head. You hear a creature barking an alarm in the northwest. That means he's tired out the prey. And he's calling me, basically. So I'm going to continue walking northwest now. Oh, there's the dog. So he didn't quite catch, or he didn't keep up with him. Or stick with him. What the hell's that? Grizzly decaying dead warrior there. Oh, it's probably with the red warrior I killed. Oh yeah, that guy. He was a bastard. So I had to kill him. Skills tracking. So the little bugger went this way. Where the hell did he go? So this is the difficult part with this, is every now and then you'll get to them, and then you'll lose track of them. Shit. Usually I would travel around in a circle like this until I found the tracks again. It's a shame though, usually the dog doesn't lose... Oh, there he is. Let's see how if he's exhausted any still. He's not. Get him, boy. Alright, let's hope I can keep up properly this time. Stop running. Shift R. To the south. Okay. Don't stop it, boy. Usually the dog will keep on the critter until he's exhausted. This time the dog disengaged it for some reason. Should be really exhausted by now. Oh, southwest. There he is. Oh, wow, he actually killed him. Damn! Good job, dog. Unfortunately, because he did kill it, as you can see, it's a harmed elk carcass. So the quality of the hide will be less, but it becomes a lot easier to hunt. The downside to the dog, of course, is twofold. Of course, as I just said, that the hide could potentially be damaged by the dog, especially if the dog manages to kill it himself. Or I should say, and the dog eats just about as much as you do. So you have to drop a bunch of food for him all the time. You can also just kind of leave it in a corner somewhere. He will go eat it when he's hungry. And so on and so forth. This is another version of hunting. Now, there's a whole variety of other things that could be covered. Of course, the actual building of the shelter. Which, of course, you would just go gather up all the supplies, shift M, building, wooden building. And then you would build each individual corner, followed by filling in the inside with ceilings and floors. And then you would place the fireplace and all that in over that, I should say. But I'm going to call that there for now, so hopefully you guys enjoyed. This was a much longer tutorial than I thought it would be. I mean, it's over an hour for a tutorial, and that's a huge amount of time. But hopefully I did cover quite a bit, and kept you mildly entertained while doing it. Or so I hope. Or so I hope. Regardless, thank you very much for watching. Have yourselves a great one, and feel free once again to chuck any questions you have in the comment section below, and I will get to it as soon as I can. Peace out, everybody.